The Blurred Lines. Chapter 1. A Whisper of Conscience. Detective Alex Porter's hands shook as he deleted the surveillance footage that could save an innocent man. The dim glow of the computer screen illuminated his haggard face, casting shadows that deepened the lines of guilt etched across his features. He stared at the blank space where Marcus Reed's alibi had been moments before. The weight of his decision hung over him, pressing down like an unbearable burden. He knew there had to be more evidence buried deep in the system. Somewhere, there was still footage and data that could not only exonerate Reed, but expose the entire web of corruption that had ensnared Nova City. Alex's mind flashed to Marcus Reed's file. A former gang member trying to turn his life around, Reed had been working 2 jobs to support his younger siblings when he was arrested. The case against him seemed airtight. DNA evidence, eyewitness testimony, and the AI's infallible analysis all pointed to his guilt. But the footage had shown Reed miles away from the crime scene, completely contradicting the AI's damning analysis. But exposing this evidence would unravel years of Alex's carefully hidden corruption, linking him to a web of dirty deals and that haunting, wrongful conviction that never left his thoughts. Alex leaned back in his chair, the rickety plastic creaking under his weight. The oppressive silence of the empty police station pressed in around him, broken only by the soft hum of computers and the thundering of his own pulse in his ears. His mind raced, replaying the moment that had set him on this path. Lieutenant Robert Hale's voice echoed in his memory. "It's just a small favor, Porter. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's how things work in this city." One small compromise had snowballed into years of buried evidence, fabricated reports, and a gnawing guilt that ate away at him day and night. And now, faced with irrefutable proof of an innocent man's alibi, he'd chosen self-preservation once again. Alex glanced at his watch. 10:37 p.m. Less than 12 hours until Marcus Reed's trial began. 12 hours to decide if he could live with sending another innocent person to prison to save his own skin. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. The walls of the small office suddenly felt suffocating. Alex grabbed his coat and hurried out, desperate for fresh air and a clear head. The night was unseasonably cold for late spring, a biting wind cutting through his jacket as he stepped outside. Alex's breath clouded in front of him as he walked briskly to his car, fumbling with cold, numbed fingers to unlock the door. Inside the vehicle, he gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white. The key sat unturned in the ignition as Alex's mind raced through his options. Reveal the truth and face the consequences of years of corruption, or stay silent, letting an innocent man take the fall while he continued to hide behind his badge. "Damn it," Alex muttered, slamming his palm against the wheel. He started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, tires squealing slightly on the damp pavement. He needed to see Marcus Reed face to face. Maybe if he could just convince himself that Reed was guilty of something, anything, he could justify his silence. The drive to Nova City Correctional Facility passed in a blur of streetlights and racing thoughts. Alex flashed his badge at the gate, his stomach churning as the guards waved him through with deferential nods. How quickly that respect would vanish if they knew the truth about him. In the visitation room, Alex's leg bounced nervously as he waited. The harsh fluorescent lights and dingy beige walls only heightened his anxiety. When the door finally opened, Marcus Reed shuffled in, shackled and hollow-eyed. "Detective Porter," Reed said, his voice rough with disuse. "Come to ask me to confess again?" Alex studied the man across from him. Reed's orange jumpsuit hung loosely on his frame, a stark contrast to the muscular build evident in his booking photos. Dark circles under his eyes spoke of sleepless nights, and a fading bruise on his jaw hinted at the harsh realities of life behind bars. "No," Alex replied, struggling to meet Reed's gaze. I needed to hear your side one more time." Reed's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but a flicker of hope crossed his face. "I've told you everything, man. I was at my sister's place the whole night, watching her kids while she worked a double shift at the hospital. I don't know why your fancy AI says different, but it's wrong." Each word was like a knife twisting in Alex's gut. He'd seen the footage. Reed was telling the truth, but admitting that would mean, "Please." Reed's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through. "I know I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to turn my life around. I can't go down for this. My family, they need me." Alex's throat tightened. He stood abruptly, unable to bear the weight of Reed's pleading eyes any longer. "I'll look into it again," he managed to choke out before hurrying from the room. Outside in the parking lot, Alex leaned against his car, gulping in deep breaths of the cool night air. The encounter had left him more conflicted than ever, Reed's words echoing in his head. "Everything all right, Porter?" Alex's head snapped up at the familiar voice. Sergeant Grace Andrews stood a few feet away, concern etched across her features. Her curly brown hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and even in civilian clothes, she exuded an air of authority. "Grace," Alex said, straightening up and trying to compose himself, "what are you doing here?" She raised an eyebrow. "I could ask you the same thing. It's nearly midnight, and you're lurking in a prison parking lot the night before a big trial." Grace took a step closer, her piercing blue eyes searching his face. "What's going on with you, Alex? You've been acting strange for days now." Alex averted his gaze, unable to meet her scrutinizing look. Grace had always been perceptive. It's what made her such a damn good cop, and right now, that perception felt dangerous. "It's nothing," he muttered, "just tying up loose ends on the Reed case." Grace's frown deepened. "Alex, I've known you for years. I can tell when something's eating at you." She placed a hand on his arm, her touch both comforting and unsettling. "Whatever it is, you can talk to me. We're partners, remember?" For a moment, Alex was tempted to confess everything. Grace had always represented the best of what the force could be, honest, dedicated, unwavering in her pursuit of justice. But that's precisely why he couldn't burden her with his sins. "I appreciate the concern," Alex said, gently pulling away from her touch. "But I'm fine, just tired. I should get home and try to get some sleep before tomorrow." Grace's hand fell to her side, disappointment flashing across her face. "All right," she said softly. "But Alex, you know you have a duty to the truth, right? To justice. Whatever's going on, don't let it compromise who you are." Her words hit him like a physical blow. Alex mumbled a hasty goodbye and climbed into his car, Grace's concerned gaze following him as he drove away. Back at the station, the halls were quiet, save for the occasional shuffling of the night shift. Alex made his way to Lieutenant Hale's office, his footsteps echoing ominously in the empty corridor. Hale looked up as Alex entered, a practiced smile spreading across his face. "Ah, Porter, burning the midnight oil, I see. Admirable dedication." Alex's skin crawled at Hale's false camaraderie. The lieutenant leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. "I trust everything's in order for tomorrow's trial?" "About that," Alex began, his mouth dry. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous pastime," Hale interrupted, his smile never wavering. Especially for someone in your position. The threat in those words was clear. Hale leaned forward, all pretense of friendliness vanishing from his expression. Let me remind you of what's at stake here, Porter. It's not just your career on the line. It's your freedom, your reputation, everything you've worked for. Hale's cold eyes bored into Alex. One word from me, and you'll be the one in an orange jumpsuit. Is that what you want? To throw it all away for some ex-gang member who's probably guilty of a dozen other crimes we haven't pinned on him yet? Alex's resolve wavered under the weight of Hale's words. The lieutenant was right. Exposing the truth would mean the end of everything he'd built. And for what? A man he barely knew? No, Alex said quietly, hating himself even as the word left his mouth. You're right. I was just double-checking everything. Hale's smile returned, sharp as a knife's edge. Good man. I knew I could count on you, Porter. Now go home, get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day for justice in Nova City. The word justice twisted in Alex's gut like poison as he left Hale's office. He made his way through the deserted halls, feeling more trapped than ever. As he rounded a corner, a sudden movement caught his eye. Before Alex could react, rough hands grabbed him, shoving him against the wall. Pain exploded in his ribs as a fist connected, driving the air from his lungs. Stay the course, a gruff voice hissed in his ear, or you'll end up like Reed. Alex lashed out blindly, his elbow connecting with something solid. He heard a grunt of pain, and the grip on him loosened. Adrenaline surging, Alex fought back with desperate intensity. The narrow hallway worked to his advantage, limiting his attacker's ability to swarm him. The fight was brutal and swift. Alex took as many hits as he gave, but years of police training gave him an edge. Finally, sensing the tide turning, his assailants retreated, melting away into the shadows as quickly as they had appeared. Panting heavily, Alex leaned against the wall, tasting blood in his mouth. The message was clear. The corruption ran deeper than he'd imagined, and the stakes were higher than ever. He stumbled to the nearest bathroom, wincing at his reflection in the mirror. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye, and bruises were already forming on his jaw. As he splashed cold water on his face, Alex stared at the battered man, looking back at him. He barely recognized himself anymore. The idealistic rookie who'd joined the force to make a difference seemed like a stranger now, lost beneath years of compromise and guilt. In that moment, something inside Alex snapped. He couldn't do this anymore, couldn't keep betraying everything he'd once stood for. The faces of those he'd wronged flashed through his mind. Marcus Reed was just the latest in a long line of victims of his cowardice. With newfound determination, Alex made his way to the server room. His hands were steady now as he bypassed security protocols and accessed the backup files. Relief washed over him as the deleted footage began to restore. As he watched the video again, something caught his eye. Hidden within the metadata was a transaction log linking a high-ranking city official to the real murderer. Alex's breath caught in his throat as he realized the implications. This went beyond simple police corruption. It reached into the highest levels of Nova City's government. Just as Alex prepared to download the evidence, a cold voice froze him in place. I'm disappointed, Porter. I really thought you were smarter than this. Lieutenant Hale stepped out of the shadows, his face twisted with barely contained rage. Did you really think I wouldn't be monitoring this room, That I'd leave loose ends like this? Alex's mind raced, searching for a way out. But Hale's next words drove home the gravity of his situation. "Let me spell it out for you," Hale snarled. "You try to expose this, and you'll be the one taking the fall. Every dirty deal, every piece of planted evidence, it all leads back to you. Who do you think they'll believe? The decorated lieutenant or the detective with a history of bending the rules?" For a moment, Alex considered giving in. It would be so easy to destroy the footage again, to forget about the transaction log and walk away. But the image of Marcus Reed's desperate face flashed in his mind, along with all the others he'd failed over the years. He couldn't go back. Not now. As Hale continued to lay out all the ways Alex's life would be destroyed, a quiet resolve settled over him. He knew the road ahead would be dangerous, possibly even fatal. But for the first time in years, he felt something like peace. When Hale finally left, confident that his threats had done their job, Alex quietly pocketed a copy of the footage and the transaction log. His hands no longer shook. His decision was made. Standing alone in the server room, Alex took a deep breath. He had no illusions about the battle that lay ahead. The corrupt forces that had controlled his life for so long wouldn't give up without a fight. But as he prepared to leave, a grim smile played at the corners of his mouth. It was time to make his last call count. Chapter 2. Cryptic Warnings. Alex's fingers hover over the keyboard, trembling slightly as he contemplates his next move. The safe house feels suffocating, its walls closing in with each passing second. Hale's threat echoes in his mind, a constant reminder of the danger he faces. He takes a deep breath, steadying himself. The decision weighs heavily on him, but he knows there's no turning back now. With swift, determined keystrokes, Alex begins to bypass the police department's security protocols. Years of inside knowledge guide his hands as he navigates through digital barriers, each successful breach bringing him closer to his goal. As the final firewall crumbles, Alex pauses. The incriminating footage is there, waiting to be unleashed upon the world. He hesitates for a moment, the magnitude of what he's about to do hitting him full force. But the image of Marcus Reed, wrongfully imprisoned, steels his resolve. With a final click, the footage begins to upload to various public platforms. Alex watches the progress bar tick upwards, his heart pounding in rhythm with each percentage gained. As it reaches 100%, he lets out a shaky breath. It's done. The truth is out there now, for better or worse. Across town, in the sterile confines of the police station, Lieutenant Robert Hale leans back in his chair, a smug smile playing at the corners of his mouth. His fingers dance across the touchscreen interface of the department's AI system, weaving an intricate web of lies. "Let's see how your little crusade holds up against this, Porter," Hale mutters, his eyes cold and calculating as he manipulates the data. With practiced ease, Hale fabricates additional evidence against Marcus Reed. Security camera footage is altered, time-stamped to place Reed at the scene of the crime. Digital records of phone calls and text messages materialize, painting a damning picture of premeditation and guilt. As the last piece falls into place, Hale admires his handiwork. The fabricated evidence is flawless, seamlessly integrated into the existing case file. Even if Porter's leaked footage somehow gains traction, this new evidence will ensure Reed's conviction. Hale closes the program, leaving no trace of his interference. He stands, straightening his immaculate uniform, and heads for the door. As he leaves, he can't help but chuckle. Porter never stood a chance. Alex moves through the shadows of Nova City, his every sense on high alert. The weight of his hastily packed bag presses against his back, a constant reminder of his precarious situation. He's traded his usual rumpled suit for nondescript street clothes, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Every passing car makes him tense. Every distant siren sends a jolt of panic through his system. He knows it's only a matter of time before both his corrupt colleagues and the criminals they protect catch up to him. As he rounds a corner, Alex catches a glimpse of his reflection in a storefront window. The man staring back at him is a stranger, hair freshly cut, stubble darkening his jaw, eyes haunted and wary. It's a necessary disguise, but it feels like another step away from the life he once knew. A group of patrol officers pass by on the opposite side of the street. Alex ducks his head, heart hammering, as he waits for shouts of recognition. But they pass without incident, leaving him both relieved and oddly disappointed. He's truly on his own now. The city that was once his home has become a labyrinth of potential threats. Every alley could hide an ambush. Every friendly face could be a trap. Alex keeps moving, knowing that to stay still is to invite capture. But the constant state of hypervigilance is taking its toll, fraying his nerves and clouding his judgment. As night falls, Alex finds himself in a run-down part of town, far from his usual haunts. The streets here are nearly deserted, the silence broken only by the distant rumble of traffic and the occasional bark of a stray dog. He spots a payphone, a relic from a bygone era, and makes a decision. With shaking hands, Alex dials a number he knows by heart. Each ring feels like an eternity as he scans the area, paranoid that someone might be watching. Finally, a familiar voice answers. Hello? Grace Andrews sounds tired, wary. Grace, it's me. Alex keeps his voice low and urgent. I need your help. There's a long pause, and Alex can almost hear the gears turning in Grace's mind. When she speaks again, her tone is guarded. Alex, where are you? What's going on? I can't explain everything over the phone, Alex says, glancing nervously over his shoulder. But I've uncovered something big. Corruption that goes all the way to the top. I need someone I can trust. Grace's hesitation is palpable. Alex, I don't know. After everything that's happened, how do I know I can trust you? The words sting, but Alex pushes on. I know I've made mistakes, Grace, but this is bigger than me. An innocent man's life is on the line. Please, just meet with me. Hear me out. Another long pause. Alex holds his breath, acutely aware of how exposed he is. Finally, Grace sighs. All right, but we do this on my terms. I'll text you a location. Come alone, and if I sense anything fishy, I'm out. Got it. Understood, Alex says with relief washing over him. Thank you, Grace. As he hangs up the phone, Alex allows himself a moment of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he's not entirely alone in this fight. The lock gives way with a soft click, and Alex pushes open the door to his apartment. Immediately, he knows something is wrong. The air is heavy with the acrid smell of overturned furniture and violation. Heart-pounding, Alex steps inside, his hand instinctively reaching for the gun at his hip. The scene that greets him is one of utter chaos. Books and papers litter the floor, drawers hang open with their contents spilled out, and the couch has been slashed open, its stuffing spilling out like entrails. No, Alex mutters, picking his way through the debris. He heads straight for the hidden safe behind a loose panel in the closet, praying that somehow it's been overlooked. But as he pushes aside the panel, his heart sinks. The safe door hangs open, its contents gone. The flash drive containing his only copy of the uncorrupted evidence is nowhere to be seen. A flash of red catches his eye. Pinned to the wall with a kitchen knife is a note, the words scrawled in what looks disturbingly like blood. "Stop, or next time you won't be so lucky." Alex stumbles back, his mind reeling. They know. Somehow they know what he's doing, and they're closing in. With shaking hands, he begins to search the apartment, hoping against hope that he might find something, anything that could help him. But it's clear that whoever did this was thorough. Every hiding spot has been found, every potential piece of evidence taken or destroyed. As the full weight of the situation settles on him, Alex slumps against the wall, sliding down to sit amidst the chaos. He's back to square one, with no evidence and a target painted squarely on his back. The sound of a siren in the distance snaps him back to reality. He can't stay here. With one last look at the ransacked apartment, at the life he's leaving behind, Alex slips out into the night once more. The park is eerily quiet at this hour, the usual sounds of life muffled by the late-night fog that rolls in from the river. Alex walks briskly, his collar turned up against the chill, eyes constantly scanning for any sign of danger. Every rustle of leaves, every distant echo of footsteps sets his nerves on edge. He feels exposed here, an easy target in the open space. But he needs to keep moving, to stay one step ahead of whoever is hunting him. As he passes a bench shrouded in shadows, a figure suddenly materializes beside him. Before Alex can react, something is pressed into his hand, and the stranger is gone, melting back into the darkness as quickly as they appeared. Heart racing, Alex clutches the object, a folded piece of paper. He ducks behind a nearby tree, using the dim glow of a distant streetlight to read the cryptic message. "The truth is deeper than you think. Stop digging, or you'll be buried alive." A chill runs down Alex's spine that has nothing to do with the night air. The note confirms his worst fears. There are forces at work here far beyond what he initially imagined. But who left this warning? Friend or foe? Another player in this deadly game? Alex crumples the paper in his fist, his mind whirling with possibilities and paranoia. He can trust no one, not even those who seem to be on his side. The weight of isolation presses down on him, heavier than ever. With one last wary glance around the park, Alex resumes his aimless wandering. But now, every shadow seems to hide a potential threat, every innocent passerby a possible assassin. The city that was once his home has become a labyrinth of danger and deceit. The familiar hum of servers fills the air as Alex slips into the police station's backup room. He moves with practiced stealth, years of experience guiding his steps as he navigates the maze of blinking lights and humming machinery. His fingers fly across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols with ease. But as the login screen finally appears, Alex's heart sinks. The entire server has been wiped clean, leaving nothing but an empty void where the backup footage should be. "No," he whispers, frantically searching for any trace of the data. But it's gone, erased as thoroughly as if it had never existed. The realization sweeps over him like a powerful wave. Someone inside the department, someone with high-level access, is actively covering their tracks. The conspiracy runs deeper than he ever imagined, reaching into the very heart of the system he once trusted. Alex slumps in the chair, the gravity of his situation crushing down on him. He's left with nothing but the fragmented clues he's managed to piece together, facing an enemy that seems to always be one step ahead. The sound of footsteps in the hallway jolts him back to reality. Alex quickly logs out and slips from the room, his mind racing. He's running out of options, and time is not on his side. Rain falls in a steady drizzle, turning the grimy alley into a maze of puddles and shadows. Alex stands with his back against the cold brick wall, every muscle tense as he waits for Hale to appear. The lieutenant materializes from the gloom, his imposing figure cutting through the rain like a shark through murky waters. His face is a mask of cool professionalism, but his eyes gleam with something darker. "Porter," Hale says, his voice carrying easily over the patter of raindrops. "I have to admit, I'm surprised you had the guts to show up." Alex forces himself to stand straighter, ignoring the way his heart hammers against his ribs. "I want answers, Hale. Why frame Reed? What's really going on here?" Hale's laugh is cold and humorless. "You still don't get it, do you? You're so focused on your little crusade that you can't see the bigger picture." "Then enlighten me," Alex growls, taking a step forward. Hale's hand moves to his hip, where Alex knows he keeps his service weapon. "You're in over your head, Porter. Walk away now, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get to keep your miserable life." The tension in the air is palpable, crackling like electricity. Alex's fingers twitch, inching towards his own concealed weapon. "I can't do that, Hale. You know I can't." For a moment, they stand frozen, two predators sizing each other up. Then in a blur of motion, Hale lunges forward, a glint of steel flashing in his hand. Alex barely has time to react, throwing himself to the side as Hale's knife slices through the air where his throat had been a second before. He feels a sharp sting as the blade catches his arm, but adrenaline dulls the pain. They grapple in the confined space of the alley, each fighting for control. Hale's greater size and strength give him an advantage, but Alex's desperation lends him speed and ferocity. Fists connect with flesh, grunts of pain echoing off the damp walls. Alex tastes blood in his mouth, feels the sting of split knuckles, but he pushes through the pain, knowing that to falter now means certain death. In a desperate move, Alex manages to knock the knife from Hale's hand. It clatters away, disappearing into a nearby drain. But Hale doesn't relent, his hands wrapping around Alex's throat with brutal force. Spots dance in Alex's vision as he struggles for air. With the last of his strength, he drives his knee up, catching Hale in the stomach. The lieutenant's grip loosens just enough for Alex to break free. Gasping for breath, Alex staggers back. Hale recovers quickly, advancing with murderous intent in his eyes. But before he can close the distance, the sound of approaching sirens cuts through the night. Hale hesitates, glancing towards the mouth of the alley. It's all the opening Alex needs. He turns and runs, ignoring the pain that flares through his battered body with every step. Behind him, he hears Hale's voice, filled with cold promise. "This isn't over, Porter. Not by a long shot." Alex doesn't look back, focusing only on putting as much distance between himself and Hale as possible. The rain washes away the blood, but it can't erase the knowledge that he's now in a fight for his very survival. The abandoned building looms before Alex, a hulking shadow against the night sky. He stumbles inside, every movement sending jolts of pain through his battered body. The adrenaline from the fight is wearing off, leaving him acutely aware of each bruise and cut. In the dim light filtering through dirty windows, Alex assesses the damage. His shirt is torn and bloodstained, a deep gash on his arm, still oozing slowly. Bruises are already forming on his ribs, and he can feel the swelling around his left eye. With trembling hands, he tears strips from his ruined shirt, fashioning makeshift bandages. The pain is intense as he binds his wounds, but it's nothing compared to the mental anguish gnawing at him. Alex slumps against the cold wall, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. He's running out of time, out of resources, out of allies. The fight with Hale has left him more vulnerable than ever, both physically and emotionally. As he sits in the darkness, Alex tries to formulate a plan, but his thoughts are fragmented, clouded by pain and fatigue. He knows he can't give up. Marcus Reed's life depends on him uncovering the truth. But with each passing moment, the odds against him seem to grow insurmountable. A rat scurries across the floor, startling Alex from his grim reverie. He realizes he can't afford to wallow in self-pity. Gritting his teeth against the pain, he forces himself to stand. There has to be a way forward, some angle he hasn't considered yet. With renewed determination, Alex retrieves the flash drive from his pocket, the one piece of evidence he managed to salvage before going on the run. It's time to take another look, to see if there's something he missed in his initial analysis. The glow of Alex's laptop screen illuminates his haggard face as he pores over the footage for what feels like the 100th time. His eyes burn with fatigue, but he forces himself to stay focused, knowing that the key to unraveling this conspiracy might lie in the smallest detail. As he scrutinizes a particular segment, something catches his eye. The timestamp in the corner of the frame seems to jump slightly, almost imperceptibly. Frowning, Alex rewinds and plays it again at half speed. There it is, a tiny glitch, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. But to Alex's trained eye, it's a glaring inconsistency. Heart racing, he begins to examine other parts of the footage more closely. Soon he uncovers more anomalies, shadows that don't quite match up, reflections that appear and disappear unnaturally. The truth floods his mind like a burst dam. This footage, which he had believed to be the smoking gun, has been tampered with, and not just crudely edited, but manipulated at a level that would require access to the most sophisticated AI systems. Alex sits back, his mind reeling. The implications are staggering. If the AI itself has been compromised, it means that someone with the highest level of clearance is involved. Someone far more powerful than Hale. He thinks back to the cryptic warning he received in the park. The truth is deeper than you think. Now he understands just how prophetic those words were. With shaking hands, Alex begins to compile the clues he's gathered. The manipulated footage, the wiped server, the attempts on his life. All of it points to a conspiracy that reaches far beyond a simple case of police corruption. As dawn breaks over the city, casting long shadows through the broken windows of his hideout, Alex finally sees the pattern emerging, and at the center of it all is a name that makes his blood run cold. A prominent city official known for their anti-corruption stance. The irony would be laughable if the situation weren't so dire. Alex stares at the name on his screen, his mind racing with the implications. This official has been using the AI system as their personal puppet, manipulating evidence and information to protect their allies and eliminate threats. It's a level of corruption that goes beyond anything Alex had imagined, reaching into the very core of Nova City's justice system. The realization hits him like a physical blow. If he wants to expose the truth and clear Marcus Reed's name, he'll have to go straight to the source. He needs to infiltrate the AI's core system, a task that seems nearly impossible, given his current situation. Alex leans back, wincing as his bruised body protests the movement. The enormity of what he's up against threatens to overwhelm him. He's battered, exhausted, and alone, facing an enemy with seemingly limitless resources and power. But as he looks at the photo of Marcus Reed on his screen, a man whose life hangs in the balance, Alex feels a renewed sense of determination. He can't give up now, not when he's finally uncovered the truth. With a groan, Alex pushes himself to his feet. He knows the road ahead is fraught with danger, but it's the only way to bring down the mastermind and uncover the truth. He begins to formulate a plan, his mind racing through possibilities and potential pitfalls. As the first rays of sunlight filter through the grimy windows, Alex Porter stands tall, his resolve hardened by the challenges he's faced. He's no longer just fighting for his own redemption. He's fighting for the very soul of justice in Nova City. The path ahead is unclear and treacherous, but Alex knows one thing for certain. He's going to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. With a deep breath, he gathers his meager belongings and prepares to take the fight to the heart of the corruption that has poisoned his city. As he steps out into the dawn of a new day, Alex Porter is a man transformed. No longer the conflicted detective torn between duty and conscience, he has become a crusader for truth, ready to risk everything to expose the rot at the core of Nova City's power structure. The city awakens around him, oblivious to the battle that's about to unfold in its streets and corridors of power. But soon, Alex knows, the truth will come to light, and when it does, nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 3. Countdown to Chaos. Alex Porter slumps against a grimy alley wall, his ragged breaths echoing in the narrow space. Blood seeps through his hastily bandaged wounds, a stark reminder of the price he's paid to get this far. The weight of his mission presses down on him, heavier than the gun tucked against his side. Marcus Reed's trial. The ticking clock in his mind won't let him forget. Without the unaltered evidence, an innocent man goes to prison, and the rot at Nova City's core festers on, unchecked. Alex's gaze drifts to the looming silhouette of the Central Police Headquarters. The AI's core hub lies within those fortress-like walls, protected by layers of security and corrupt officers all too willing to put a bullet in him. His body screams for rest, for surrender, but Alex grits his teeth, pushing himself upright. "Not today," he mutters, his voice rough. "Not when I'm this close." He limps towards a hidden safe house, mind already racing through possibilities. The odds are overwhelming, but Alex has been backed into too many corners to give up now. As he slips inside the dingy apartment that serves as his last refuge, a grim determination settles over him. Alex spreads out a crude map of the police headquarters on a rickety table. His fingers, still caked with dried blood, trace potential entry points, security checkpoints, patrol routes, the labyrinthine path to the AI core. He commits it all to memory, knowing a single misstep could be fatal. "Keycard access," he murmurs, scribbling notes. "Biometric scanners at level 3. Timed rotations of the night shift." Hours pass in a blur of meticulous planning. Alex's injuries throb, a constant reminder of his vulnerability, but he pushes through the pain, fueled by a desperate cocktail of caffeine and sheer willpower. As dawn breaks, casting sickly light through grimy windows, Alex surveys his work. A list of essential equipment sits beside the annotated blueprints: hacking tools, a secure drive, a backup weapon. It's not much, but it'll have to do. Alex's hand hovers over his burner phone. One call left to make, one final gamble. He dials a number he knows by heart, holding his breath as it rings. Who is this? Sergeant Grace Andrews's voice is sharp, wary. Grace, it's me, Alex says, tension coiling in his gut. I need your help. One last time. A beat of silence stretches between them. When Grace speaks again, her tone is ice. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't trace this call right now, Porter. Alex closes his eyes, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. Because you know something's rotten in this city, and deep down, you know I'm trying to make it right. Another pause, this one laden with unspoken history. Finally, Grace sighs. Park garage on 5th and Main. 20 minutes. Come alone, or I walk. The line goes dead. Alex allows himself a moment of relief before hauling himself to his feet. It's time to see if their partnership still means anything. The parking garage looms like a concrete mausoleum, shadows pooling in every corner. Alex's footsteps echo as he makes his way to the agreed-upon level. His hand never strays far from his concealed weapon. A figure emerges from behind a pillar. Grace's face is a mask of professional detachment, but Alex catches the flicker of concern in her eyes as she takes in his battered state. Jesus, Porter, she mutters. You look like hell. Feel worse, Alex admits, a faint smile played at his lips. It fades quickly as he meets her gaze. Grace, I need to get into the AI hub. Tonight. Her eyes widen. You're insane. That place is Fort Knox on steroids. Even if you could get past the outer security. I know the risks, Alex cuts her off. But I've got no choice. The unaltered footage is in there. The only thing that can save Marcus Reed. And time's running out. Grace's jaw tightens. Alex, even if what you're saying is true, helping you could cost me everything. My career, my freedom. Your conscience, Alex presses. What about Reed's freedom? Alex countered. You've met his family, Grace. You've seen how this has torn them apart. His sister lost her job trying to pay for his defense. They're barely holding on, and if Reed goes down for this... Alex trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. Conflict wars across Grace's features. For a heart-stopping moment, Alex thinks she'll walk away. Then her shoulders slump, resignation and determination mingling in her eyes. I must be as crazy as you, she mutters. From her jacket, she produces a police uniform and an access badge. This'll get you through the first 2 checkpoints. After that, you're on your own. Alex takes the items, relief washing over him. Thank you, Grace. I won't forget this. She fixes him with a hard stare. Just promise me one thing, Porter. When this is all over, you tell me everything. No more secrets, no more lies. Alex nodded solemnly. You have my word. Grace hesitated for a moment, then reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small, nondescript device and pressed it into Alex's hand. Take this, she said in a low voice. It's an EMP device, short range but powerful. If you get into trouble, it might be your only way out. Alex's eyes widened as he realized what she was giving him. Grace, where did you get this? If anyone finds out. Let me worry about that. She cut him off. Just be careful, okay? And use it only as a last resort. Alex closed his fingers around the device, feeling its weight, both physical and metaphorical. Thank you, Grace, for everything. As Grace melts back into the shadows, Alex clutches the uniform. It's not much, but it's a start. a chance to set things right or die trying. The Central Police Headquarters rises before him, a monolith of steel and glass that seems to scrape the night sky. Alex adjusts the borrowed uniform, every nerve on high alert. Alex winced as he donned the uniform, the fabric rough against his still healing wounds. The bruises from his fight with Hale had darkened to a mottled purple, a constant reminder of the price he was paying. He gingerly touched the cut above his eye, now sealed with butterfly bandages, and took a shallow breath to avoid aggravating his tender ribs. He approaches the first checkpoint, heart thundering in his chest. The guard barely glances at his badge, waving him through with a bored nod. Alex forces himself to walk at a measured pace, fighting the urge to run. Inside, the building hums with quiet activity. Night shift officers move through the corridors, their faces a blur as Alex navigates the memorized layout. Each step brings him closer to the AI core and to discovery. The second checkpoint looms ahead. Alex's palms are slick with sweat as he presents Grace's credentials. The guard scrutinizes the badge, then Alex's face. For a heart-stopping moment, recognition flickers in the man's eyes. "You all right, officer?" the guard asks, frowning. "You look a little rough." Alex summons a rueful smile. "Rough night. Broke up a bar fight in the Hollows. You know how it goes." The guard chuckles, nodding in sympathy. "Been there, brother. Stay safe out there." As the barrier lifts, Alex fights to keep his breathing steady. That was too close. He can't afford another slip-up. The deeper he penetrates into the building, the more oppressive the atmosphere becomes. The corridors narrow, the security measures intensify. Alex's injuries throb with every step, a grim reminder of how much is stacked against him. As Alex moved through the shadows, his mind drifted to Lieutenant Hale. He could almost hear Hale's gravelly voice, a mix of charm and menace that had once commanded Alex's respect. He remembered the day Hale had taken him under his wing, a rookie cop full of ideals and ambition. "This city will eat you alive if you let it, Porter," Hale had said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You've got to learn to bend a little if you want to make a difference." At the time, Alex had mistaken those words for wisdom. Now he recognized them for what they were. The first step down a treacherous path. Hale wasn't just corrupt. He was a true believer in his own twisted version of justice. In his mind, the ends always justified the means. Alex wondered what had turned Hale from a decorated officer into the linchpin of Nova City's corruption. Was it greed, power, or had he simply lost faith in the system he'd sworn to uphold? Whatever the reason, Alex knew that Hale wouldn't go down without a fight. The lieutenant was smart, ruthless, and had everything to lose. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of tense navigation, he reaches the entrance to the AI core hub. The massive door looms before him, a final barrier between Alex and his goal. He takes a deep breath, steeling himself for what comes next. With trembling hands, he connects his hacking tools to the security panel. Lines of code scroll across the small screen as Alex works to bypass the formidable encryption. Sweat beads on his forehead, each second stretching into an eternity. A soft beep. The door slides open with a pneumatic hiss. Alex slips inside, heart pounding. The AI core hub stretches before him, a cavernous space filled with rows of gleaming servers. Blue light bathes everything in an eerie glow, and the air thrums with the sound of countless processors working in unison. It's a temple to technology, the beating heart of Nova City's corrupted justice system. Alex moves swiftly to the central terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard. Layers of security fall before him, but each one takes precious time to crack. He can feel the noose tightening with every passing moment. The progress bar on his secure drive crawls forward, agonizingly slowly. Alex's eyes dart between the screen and the door, every muscle coiled tight. He's so close, just a few more minutes, and an alarm blares, shattering the hub's artificial calm. Alex's blood runs cold as red warning lights begin to flash. No, 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 he mutters, fingers moving faster. The data transfer is at 89%, but footsteps are already thundering down the corridor outside. Alex draws his weapon, keeping one hand on the keyboard. The door bursts open, and chaos erupts. Corrupt officers pour into the hub, led by the imposing figure of Lieutenant Robert Hale. Gunfire erupts, forcing Alex to dive for cover behind a bank of servers. The acrid smell of ozone fills the air as bullets ricochet off delicate equipment. "It's over, Porter." Hale's voice booms across the room. "You're only making this worse for yourself." Alex doesn't waste breath on a reply. He pops up from cover, squeezing off 2 quick shots that send Hale's men scrambling. The narrow aisles between servers turn the firefight into a deadly game of cat and mouse. A bullet grazes Alex's arm, sending fresh pain lancing through him. He grits his teeth, returning fire. An officer goes down with a cry, clutching his leg, but there are too many, and Alex is running out of options. He risks a glance at the terminal. 98%. So close. A figure lunges around the corner. Alex reacts on instinct, his fist connecting with the man's jaw. They grapple in the confined space, Alex using every dirty trick he knows to stay alive. He slams his opponent's head against a server rack, the man crumpling to the ground. "Last chance, Porter," Hale calls out. "Surrender now, and maybe we can work something out." Alex's laugh is bitter. "Like you worked things out for Marcus Reed?" Alex's mind churned, thinking about the AI system that had become the backbone of Nova City's law enforcement. It was supposed to be infallible, an impartial arbiter of justice, but he knew better now. The AI, like everything else in this corrupt system, was just another tool for those in power. He remembered the countless cases where the AI's analysis had been treated as gospel, overriding human intuition and experience. How many innocent people had been convicted based on its flawed, manipulated data? The thought made his blood boil. The AI wasn't just part of the problem. It was the linchpin holding the entire corrupt structure together. The terminal beeps, 100% complete. Alex snaps out of his thoughts. With a surge of desperate energy, Alex lunges for the secure drive. His fingers close around it just as Hale steps into view, gun leveled at Alex's head. "It's over," Hale says, a cold smile twisting his features. "Did you really think you could win?" Alex's mind races, searching for a way out, but Hale's next words freeze the blood in his veins. "Even if you somehow got that drive out of here, it wouldn't matter." Hale sneers. "You're the perfect fall guy, Porter. We've got a paper trail a mile long, pinning this whole mess on you. Tampered evidence, falsified reports, all with your fingerprints all over them." The weight of Hale's words crashes down on Alex. He sees it all now, how neatly he's been maneuvered into this position. The corrupt leadership of Nova City, sacrificing him to protect their own power. For a moment, despair threatens to overwhelm him. But then Alex thinks of Marcus Reed, of all the others who've suffered under this broken system. His grip tightens on the drive. "Maybe you're right," Alex says, voice low. Maybe I can't win, but I'm sure as hell not going down without a fight. He moves with explosive speed, knocking Hale's gun aside. The lieutenant's eyes widen in surprise as Alex crashes into him. They slam into a server rack, the metal groaning under their combined weight. Hale is bigger, stronger, but Alex fights with the desperation of a cornered animal. Fists fly, each impact jarring through Alex's battered body. He tastes blood, feels something crack in his ribs, but he doesn't relent. Suddenly, Hale produced a small knife, its blade glinting in the blue light of the hub. Alex barely managed to dodge the first swipe, but the second caught him, slicing a deep gash along his forearm. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but Alex gritted his teeth and pressed on, knowing that to falter now would mean certain defeat. A lucky strike catches Hale in the solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. Alex seizes the moment, bringing his knee up hard. Hale crumples, gasping. Alex doesn't waste time savoring the victory. He snatches up the secure drive and runs, every step sending fresh agony through his abused body. Alarms blare, filling the corridors with crimson light as he sprints towards freedom. As Alex ran, his injuries protested violently. Each footfall sent shockwaves of pain through his cracked ribs, and his vision blurred from the throbbing in his swollen eye. But the adrenaline coursing through his veins dulled the worst of it, allowing him to push through the agony. Alarms blare, filling the corridors with crimson light as he sprints towards freedom. Officers shout behind him, but Alex doesn't slow down. He rounds a corner, nearly colliding with a startled security guard. Alex's momentum carries them both to the ground. He scrambles to his feet first, delivering a swift kick that ensures the guard stays down. The exit looms ahead, a rectangle of night sky visible through reinforced glass. Alex's lungs burn, his vision blurring at the edges, but the weight of the drive in his hand spurs him on. He bursts through the doors, cool air hitting his face like a slap. For a moment, exhilaration surges through him. He did it. He got the evidence out. Then reality crashes back. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, voices shouting orders to stop. Alex forces his battered body into motion once more, sprinting away from the facility. He doesn't know where he's going, only that he can't stop. The entire force will be after him now, hunting him down like a rabid dog. But none of that matters. Alex clutches the drive to his chest as he runs, each labored breath a prayer. He has the truth now. All he needs is a chance to use it. As Alex disappeared into the shadows, the sprawling expanse of Nova City stretched out before him. The metropolis was a study in contrasts, a shimmering beacon of progress built atop a foundation of decay and corruption. Towering skyscrapers pierced the night sky, their gleaming facades adorned with pulsing holographic advertisements. The upper levels of these massive structures housed the elite, those who basked in the city's technological marvels and turned a blind eye to the suffering below. In stark contrast, the lower levels of Nova City were a maze of narrow streets and crumbling infrastructure. Here, the neon signs flickered weakly, casting sickly hues on the faces of those struggling to survive. The air was thick with smog, a tangible reminder of the environmental price paid for the city's relentless growth. Automated drones buzzed overhead, their watchful eyes a constant reminder of the AI-driven surveillance system that had become Nova City's silent overlord. In the distance, the imposing silhouette of the Central Police Headquarters loomed, a fortress-like structure that symbolized the iron grip of law enforcement and the corruption that festered within its walls. Yet, despite its flaws, Nova City pulsed with a raw energy, an indomitable spirit that refused to be crushed. It was this spirit that Alex fought for, the belief that beneath the layers of corruption and injustice, there was still something worth saving. But Alex's moment of reflection was cut brutally short. As he turned a corner, a squad of heavily armed officers emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on him. He froze, realizing with a sinking feeling that his luck had finally run out. "Alexander Porter," a voice boomed through a megaphone. "You are under arrest for theft of classified information, obstruction of justice, and treason against Nova City. Surrender now." For a split second, Alex considered running, but as he glanced at the determined faces surrounding him, he knew it was futile. With a deep breath, he slowly raised his hands. "I hope you know what you're doing," he said quietly as the officers approached, relief and resignation mingling in his voice. As the cold steel of handcuffs encircled his wrists, Alex allowed himself to be led away, his mind already racing towards what would come next. Chapter 4. The Last Stand. Hours later, after a blur of processing and interrogation attempts, Alex found himself being escorted to a room deep within the heart of the facility. Alex's wrists chafe against the cold metal of the handcuffs as he's led into a dimly lit room, the metal biting into the raw skin where he'd been bound before. His battered body screamed for rest, injuries from multiple fights making every movement a study in pain management. The bruises on his face had begun to yellow at the edges, but the swelling around his eye had barely subsided. The air reeks of antiseptic and fear, making his stomach churn. Shadowy figures loom behind a glass wall, their faces obscured, but their power is unmistakable. He's shoved unceremoniously into a chair, the shackles clicking into place with grim finality. An imposing figure steps forward, the self-appointed chief of this clandestine tribunal. When he speaks, his voice drips with barely concealed malice. Detective Porter. Or should I say, former detective? Alex's jaw clenches, but he remains silent. His eyes dart around the room, searching for any sign of hope, any possible escape. There is none. The chief continues, each word a hammer blow to Alex's dwindling resolve. "Let me be perfectly clear. The evidence you've stolen, it dies with you. Any attempt to release that footage will result not only in your immediate execution, but in the systematic destruction of everyone you hold dear." Images flash through Alex's mind. Grace's determined face, Marcus Reed's haunted eyes, the families of those he's failed. The weight of their lives settles on his shoulders, threatening to crush him. "Do you understand the position you're in, Porter?" The chief leans in close, his breath hot on Alex's face. "You're done. Finished. The only choice you have left is how many innocent people you drag down with you." Alex's throat constricts, his voice barely a whisper. "You can't do this. The truth, the truth." The chief's laugh is a harsh, brittle sound. "The truth is whatever we say it is. You of all people should understand that by now." As the gravity of his situation sinks in, Alex feels something inside him shatter. He's cornered, outmaneuvered at every turn. The corruption he's fought so hard to expose runs deeper than he ever imagined, its tentacles reaching into the very heart of Nova City. As Alex faced down his captors, he could feel his body reaching its limits. The constant ache in his ribs made each breath a challenge, and the reopened gash on his arm left a warm trail of blood down to his fingertips. But despite the pain, or perhaps because of it, his resolve had never been stronger. The tribunal members begin to debate the terms of his execution, their voices a distant buzz in Alex's ears. He slumps in the chair, defeat etched into every line of his body. Is this how it ends? All his sacrifice, all his desperate attempts at redemption, wiped away in a single stroke. But even as despair threatens to consume him, a small spark ignites in the back of Alex's mind. His fingers, hidden from view, brush against the hidden compartment in his belt. The cool touch of metal reminds him of Grace's parting gift, a lifeline he'd almost forgotten. Hope, fragile but determined, begins to take root. Alex straightens imperceptibly, his mind racing. He's not done yet, not by a long shot. The chief turns back to him, a predatory smile on his face. Now, Porter, let's discuss the details of your cooperation. We need to ensure that... Alex cuts him off, his voice steadier than he feels. You're right about one thing. I do understand my position. He meets the chief's gaze, a hint of his old fire returning. And I understand that you're scared. Because if I got this far, who knows what else I might have uncovered. A flicker of uncertainty passes over the chief's face, quickly masked by anger. You're in no position to make threats, Porter. Maybe not, Alex replies, buying time as he assesses the room. But I'm not the only one with something to lose here. How sure are you that your dirty little secrets are safe? The chief's composure slips, just for a moment. It's all Alex needs. In that split second of distraction, his fingers find the hidden device. With a silent prayer, he activates it. The room plunges into darkness as the EMP device does its work. Shouts of confusion erupt from the tribunal members. In the chaos, Alex feels the electronic locks on his shackles disengage. He doesn't hesitate. Ignoring the protest of his battered body, Alex launches himself from the chair. His fist connects with the chief's jaw, sending the man sprawling. Adrenaline surges through him as he sprints for the door, using the disorientation of his captors to his advantage. The corridors of the secure facility stretch before him like a labyrinth. Alex's heart pounds in his ears as he races through the maze, every turn a gamble. The EMP has disabled most of the security systems, but he knows it won't last long. Shouts echo behind him, growing closer with each passing second. Alex ducks into a maintenance shaft, the tight space scraping his skin as he squeezes through. He emerges into a dimly lit service corridor, his lungs burning as he gulps in stale air. A patrol of guards rounds the corner, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. Alex presses himself against the wall, praying the shadows will conceal him. For a heart-stopping moment, the beam passes over his hiding spot. Then mercifully, it moves on. As the sound of boots fades, Alex allows himself a moment to catch his breath. His mind races, trying to piece together a mental map of the facility. He's close to the outer perimeter, but the most dangerous part of his escape still lies ahead. With renewed determination, Alex pushes on. He navigates through a series of back passages, relying on instinct and fragments of overheard conversations to guide him. Each step brings him closer to freedom and to the chance to expose the truth that's cost him everything. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of near misses and heart-pounding chases, Alex emerges into the cool night air. The city sprawls before him, a maze of lights and shadows. He doesn't allow himself to relax, knowing that every second counts. Alex makes his way to a prearranged safe house, constantly checking over his shoulder for signs of pursuit. Inside the dingy apartment, he retrieves the secure drive containing the damning footage. His hands shake slightly as he connects it to a portable network uplink. As the upload begins, Alex positions himself by the window, keeping watch. The progress bar crawls forward, agonizingly slowly. 5%, 10%. Each passing minute feels like an eternity, the threat of discovery looming over him. Sirens wail in the distance, growing steadily closer. Alex's pulse quickens, but he forces himself to remain focused. He can't afford to make a mistake now, not when he's so close. The upload reaches 50% just as a convoy of police vehicles screeches to a halt outside. Alex curses under his breath, his mind racing through potential escape routes. But leaving now would mean abandoning the upload, and with it, any chance of exposing the truth. He makes his choice. Alex hunkers down, praying that the upload will complete before they find him. The sound of boots on the stairs echoes through the building. 70%. 80%. The door splinters under the force of a battering ram. Just as the first officers burst into the room, weapons drawn, the upload reaches 100%. Alex raises his hands slowly, a grim smile on his face. "You're too late," he says quietly. "It's done." The impact of the released footage is immediate and explosive. Within minutes, every news channel in Nova City is broadcasting the damning evidence. Social media explodes with outrage as citizens share and discuss the revelations. From his holding cell, Alex watches the chaos unfold on a small television. The footage he risked everything to obtain plays on a loop, irrefutable proof of the corruption that has poisoned Nova City's justice system. He sees Lieutenant Hale being led away in handcuffs, his once immaculate uniform now wrinkled and stained. Other high-ranking officials follow, their faces ashen as they realize the extent of their exposure. But it's the next piece of news that truly catches Alex's attention. A somber-faced reporter announces that a judge has ordered the immediate release of Marcus Reed. The camera cut to Reed emerging from the prison, blinking in the harsh light of day. He looked thinner, older, the months of wrongful imprisonment etched into the lines of his face. But as he spotted his family in the crowd, his expression transformed. He swept his younger sister into a fierce hug, lifting her off her feet. His brother, trying to look tough but failing to hide his tears, was next. As Reed embraced his family, Alex could see the weight lifting from his shoulders, the weight of false accusations, of a future nearly stolen, of a community's mistrust. Alex leans forward, his heart racing. Reed looks shell-shocked, his eyes wide with disbelief as he is surrounded by a sea of reporters. When asked for comment, he hesitates for a long moment before speaking. I don't know what to say," Reed stammers, "except thank you to Detective Porter. He believed in me when no one else would. He risked everything to uncover the truth." The words landed on Alex like a heavy weight dropped on his shoulders. After years of guilt and self-loathing, of compromising his ideals and turning a blind eye to injustice, he's finally done something unequivocally right. The relief is almost overwhelming. As the day wears on, more details emerge. Alex watches with a mixture of satisfaction and trepidation as the full extent of the conspiracy is revealed. The corruption runs deeper than even he had imagined, reaching into every corner of Nova City's power structure. But it's the next revelation that truly stuns him. Sergeant Grace Andrews steps forward as a key whistleblower, providing damning testimony about the inner workings of the corrupt system. Alex feels a surge of pride mixed with concern. He knows better than anyone the risks Grace is taking. On the screen, Grace faces a barrage of questions with steely determination. "I've been silent for too long," she says, her voice steady. It's time for the truth to come out, no matter the cost. As night falls, Alex paces his cell, his mind racing. He's done what he set out to do. The truth is out there, and the corrupt officials are being brought to justice. But at what cost? His career is over, his freedom forfeit. And yet, for the first time in years, he feels something like peace. The sound of approaching footsteps pulls Alex from his thoughts. He turns to see Grace standing outside his cell, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. "You did it," she says softly. "You actually did it." Alex shrugs, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "We did it. I couldn't have gotten this far without you, Grace." She shakes her head, her eyes searching his face. "Why, Alex? You knew what it would cost you. Why take that risk?" For a moment, Alex is silent, considering the question. Then he meets Grace's gaze, his voice steady. Because someone had to make the last call. Someone had to say, enough is enough. Grace nods slowly, understanding and respect mingling in her expression. What happens now? Before Alex can respond, a commotion erupts down the hallway. They turn to see a group of officers escorting a familiar figure, Mayor Evelyn Kincaid herself. The mayor's usual poise is gone, replaced by barely contained fury. Her eyes lock onto Alex, burning with hatred. "You," she snarls. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Alex steps closer to the bars, his voice low and intense. "I exposed the truth. That's all." Kincaid laughs bitterly. "The truth? You naive fool. You've thrown this city into chaos. Everything I've built, everything I've worked for, was built on lies and corruption." Alex finishes. "It's over, Mayor. The people know the truth now." As if to underscore his words, a nearby television flares to life with breaking news. The anchor's voice is tense with excitement as she relays the latest development. In a shocking turn of events, the AI system at the heart of Nova City's law enforcement has initiated an automated sequence, releasing a flood of suppressed evidence. This includes documents and recordings that further implicate Mayor Kincaid and other high-ranking officials in a web of corruption that spans decades. The color drains from Kincaid's face as she listens. Alex watches her closely, seeing the moment when she realizes that her carefully constructed house of cards is truly collapsing. "How?" she whispers, more to herself than anyone else. "How could this happen?" Alex feels a grim satisfaction as he responds. "You thought you could control everything, even the AI. But in the end, the truth has a way of coming out." As Kincaid is led away, her protests fading into the distance, Grace turns back to Alex. "It's not over yet," she warns. "There will be trials, investigations. The city has a long way to go to recover from this." Alex nods, his expression somber. "I know, but it's a start. For the first time in years, there's hope for real change." Grace hesitates, then asks the question that's been hanging between them. "What about you, Alex? What happens to you now?" He looks down at his hands, still bearing the marks of his desperate escape. "I'll face the consequences of my actions. All of them. The corruption I was part of, and the steps I took to expose it." "It's not fair," Grace argues, her voice tight with emotion. "After everything you've done." "It's the only way." Alex cuts her off gently. "If we want real justice, it has to start with accountability. Even for me. Especially for me." Grace nods reluctantly, understanding even if she doesn't like it. I'll do everything I can to make sure your story is told. The whole story. Thank you, Alex says softly. He takes a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Whatever happens next, I'm ready to face it. For the first time in a long time, I can look at myself in the mirror without flinching. As Grace turns to leave, Alex calls out to her one last time. Grace, take care of yourself, and thank you for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself. She gives him a sad smile. That's what partners are for, right? As the sound of her footsteps fades away, Alex sits on the narrow cot in his cell. Outside, he can hear the distant sounds of the city sirens, shouts, the rumble of traffic. Nova City is changing, grappling with the hard truths he's brought to light. He closes his eyes, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Whatever tomorrow brings, he'll face it knowing that he's done the right thing. In the end, that's all that matters. The last call has been made. Now it's up to the city and its people to answer it.